This video is brought to you by the Swapcast, my new podcast on a new channel I've just launched. Essentially, myself and co-hosts swap movies, TV shows and video games and rant about our thoughts. While it's much less sci-fi focused than my main channel, the most recent episode we talked about underrated TV shows and my pick was Babylon 5. The link is down below for you to check out. Since the unfortunate discontinuation of the standalone Star Wars movies, Disney and Lucasfilm have set their sights on TV as the place to expand the Star Wars universe outside of the big screen. Their inaugural effort before Ewan McGregor returns to blow fanboy minds as Obi-Wan is The Mandalorian, the Wild West-esque tales of a lone bounty hunter set after the fall of the Empire. Now 2 episodes in, is it worth watching more, or is it just a damp squib on arrival? Whereas the Marvel TV shows are a massive downgrade in terms of production value, the first live-action Star Wars show is a damn fine-looking series. The cinematic filming style, excellent production design, and outstanding visual effects put this right up there with the likes of Game of Thrones or Star Trek Discovery when it comes to presentation. The generally grounded and gritty look owes a lot to Gareth Edwards' terrific style in Rogue One. Seeing Star Wars designs, settings, and characters in this handheld shooting style and desaturated colour palette is still something totally worth exploring. In fact, I feel like the style could be pushed even further in this show. While it's certainly distinct compared to the movies at times, during the action sequences, it feels a little restrained. I feel like going a bit more 2009 J.J. Abrams would actually be a good thing for this series. But it's the visual effects which are truly impressive thanks to ILM's new television wing, and Jon Favreau once again stretching his cutting-edge tech muscles. The blend between practical effects, miniature work and CGI is stunning. It's really a testament to how far all of these disciplines have come when each technique is virtually indistinguishable from one another in the final result. I caught myself trying to figure out what elements were on set, what was a practical element later composited in, and what was computer generated. But in the end, the creation of this more grounded side of the Star Wars universe is seamlessly done. I love the more streamlined armor of the title character and simply adore his ship design. I'm sure the assortment of other weapons, ships, gadgets and vehicles has the more Star Wars specific channels going crazy elsewhere on YouTube. While the first 2 episodes haven't thrilled me to the edge of my seat, blown my mind or broken my heart, there's certainly the potential there. This sounds like a big one, but my main issue with the show thus far is the main character himself. I feel like unfortunately the shadow of Boba Fett has severely limited what other Mandalorian characters could be. After all, the Mandalorians pretty much only exist because Boba Fett had a cool armor design. This may change when more is revealed about the character of Din Djarin, but right now he's pretty much just Boba Fett again, which I personally have never found very interesting. What I do like is that he isn't totally infallible, and in these first 2 episodes he's actually been the underdog in many confrontations, as opposed to the Batman levels of fanfiction style writing which made Boba Fett borderline insufferable in certain circles of the expanded universe. What I do find a tad dull is Din Djarin's general personality. He's Clint Eastwood, Charles Bronson, Toshiro Mifune, and all other badasses, man of few words gunslingers we've seen countless times in other pieces of media. With Pedro Pascal not having the use of his face, it would be cool to see more likeable Captain Reynolds or El Mariachi style personality expressed more explicitly in the character's body language. But that's more of a matter of personal taste. The filmmakers are clearly going for an archetype, and they succeeded. What I was more interested by were the assortment of cool supporting and guest characters, and Din's interactions with them showcase some of the most promising elements of the show so far. Bringing out such recognizable cult and B-movie faces like Joseph Kony lookalike Carl Weathers and almost Klaus Kinski murderer Werner Herzog was great to see. Despite only appearing briefly, their trademark individual sense of charisma really elevated the short scenes they were featured in. Nick Nolte as the curmudgeonly Coil was also cool. Just his little catchphrase, "I have spoken," was one of the most efficiently written ways to endear a character to an audience I've ever seen. Although this is a case where I wish the animatronics in the mask were a bit more articulate. But then again, I could imagine syncing dialogue to someone with Nick Nolte's speech pattern a near impossible task. And the guest stars just keep coming, with Taika Waititi as IG-11, in probably my favourite part of the show so far. The Wild Bunch style shootout across the spaghetti western style town was awesome. And I don't know if these droids were shown to move the way they do in this scene in any other things before this, but it's a brilliant piece of animation watching this thing unload on henchmen, and the back and forth with Din gave the sequence a great dose of fun. However, I am now going to get into some spoiler territory, so skip to the timestamp on screen if you're looking for a general verdict on the show rather than an analysis of the plot points. Okay, that was your warning, here we go. The revelation of a Yoda species baby was a real surprise, and the wee guy is possibly the cutest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. Its emergence also came with a nicely engineered plot point when Din executes IG-11 on the spot to keep the baby alive. Because of their back and forth banter, we Star Wars fans would fully expect IG-11 to become part of the regular cast, but Din killing him off so abruptly was a nice subversion which tells us a little bit more about Din himself. Instead, the burgeoning relationship of the show going forward looks to be between Din and this alien child, and of course it's a Force user because why wouldn't it be? I'm really keen to see where they take this relationship and the implications in the presence of this character. Developing a father-son or father-daughter relationship rather than a Joss Whedon-esque quip-off with another android character is a welcome change of pace. But you just know with a character as cute as this, Dave Filoni and co are going to use it to break our hearts later down the line. Don't think I don't know what you're up to, Filoni. The second episode was a fun wee romp with some Jawas who I was delighted to see get vaporized because fuck Jawas, am I right? But while it was solid enough, I am far more interested to see where this overarching plot with the Force-using child will take us. Hopefully it will give the character a name so I can be less vague with my designation in later voiceover scripts. Overall, does The Mandalorian suck? No, absolutely not. While it's not super emotionally impactful as yet, and the most interesting plot developments are no doubt still to come, these first two episodes are totally solid and show something very promising. The presentation is incredibly strong, using cutting-edge visual effects to show us a grittier side of Star Wars we've only glimpsed so far. While the central character is a stock archetype, his nature lends itself to some cool action sequences, and we'll no doubt learn more about him while also seeing an investment-worthy relationship develop along the way. It gets a thumbs up from me, and I'm keen to watch even more to see how this first season shapes up. A name I'm not even going to begin to pronounce asks, do you intend to make videos about fantasy shows and movies? I would certainly like to. I'm a big fan of the fantasy genre, although I think I've played a lot more fantasy video games than watched movies or shows. That's probably something I could cover when I launch my gaming channel. What? But as always, when someone asks if I'm going to do videos on a certain thing, I have to consider the time I invest versus the eventual reward. The one fantasy-focused video I have made didn't do so well, so perhaps there's less crossover in my audience than I thought between sci-fi and fantasy. But if the right show or movie comes along, I'd love to give the genre another shot on this channel. Jamie Adams asks, you've been given a captain's commission and a choice of starship. What starship do you pick? If we're talking just the Star Trek universe, the Vesta class. It's got all the bells and whistles of the Sovereign class, but also the drive needed to explore a lot more. However, if we're talking sci-fi in general, I'd go with the Andromeda Ascendant. Apostolis Pouliakis asks, opinions on the Starcraft universe? Starcraft for me is kind of like Warhammer in that while I haven't played the games very much, I absolutely love the lore. Starcraft has this really cool juxtaposition in which it has this Arthur C. Clarke / Edward Elmer Smith style galactic mythology with a bunch of fascinating alien factions and ancient powers. There's even an element of Starship Troopers totalitarianism with the Terran Empire, which is also cool. Yet, at the same time, everything has names like it's something out of a 50s B-movie or comic strip. The Zerg and the Xel'Naga and a bunch of other things like that. There's always this element of humour and slight silliness to the aesthetics which makes inhabiting that universe so fun. I reckon you could do a great movie or TV show based on those games or set in that universe. But as I said, I just haven't played the games all that much. I do really like real-time strategy games, but I often opt for the more historical games in that genre. The Jovian asks, have you considered reviewing sci-fi novels on your channel? I have thought about it once or twice, however the thing that stops me is when talking about a novel there's not a whole lot of visually interesting things I can put on screen. I could film myself just talking about the book, but that's not really a style I like doing personally. Perhaps I could do book reviews on a podcast or something later down the line. But if you're looking for any book recommendations right now, I mean, the one I wrote is pretty good. Symbiote Mullet asks, what's your favourite food or drink from sci-fi? So, something you should know about me, I'm not a big fan of food. If I didn't have to eat, I wouldn't bother most of the time. I'm praying for the day I can get a Ghost in the Shell style cyborg body so I don't have to faff around in the kitchen anymore. Although, the flip side of that is, I have a massive sweet tooth. So some kind of ice cream maybe? For a drink though, probably Aldebaran brandy. Thank you for watching. If you like my videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay up to date on all my new uploads. Over on my Patreon, you can see videos early for as little as $5 a month. Special thanks to all my current patrons now appearing on screen. Just another quick shout out to plug my new podcast, link down below. While I thought you guys would be interested in hearing some more Babylon 5 chat, there is a lot outside of sci-fi I also love to talk about, from horror movies, action flicks, comedy, video games, and even more. It's a ton of fun recording it with myself and my mates, and I hope you come along and have a laugh with us sometime too. Have a good one, and as always, live long and prosper. Essentially, myself and co-host swap movies, TV...